Good morning, Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. It is week 2 of the Fort Worth Fabric Mystery Quilt. The name is Winter's Frost, in case you do not know. By now you should have downloaded week 2. Your paperwork looks like this. Let's get started on the block, which is called Bear Paws. Here is my design board with the 3 colors we're going to use today, which is A, which is the Motor Grunge Metropolis Fog, D, which is our grunge basic heritage blue or powder blue. I like to call it powder blue. And then the last one is C. My God, I probably should have went in order, but anyway, this is that Peacoat Metallic. And the first thing they're going to have us do is take our 9-inch squares and we're going to put them together because we're going to make half square triangles. So let me show you how I mark it for all of those that have never done it yet. Okay, so you want to take 2 different colors of your 9-inch square. You're going to face them right sides together. It's going to be your preference whether you want to do the dark one on the top, or well, the medium color, or the light one on the top. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. And then the next step we're going to do is we are going to sew this 1/4 inch all the way around. Now, you can have you have 2 choices. You either sew them 1/4 inch or a scant 1/4 inch. Whatever you decide to do, you need to keep with that. Continue with it. If you decide you want to do the scant 1/4 inch, then you must do it on all your pieces. Otherwise, they won't match up. All I'm doing is putting some pins on here. I find the clips too heavy. And then I'm going to go around the entire thing. And then I will show you how we cut it out. Okay, so I'm using a 12-inch needle, just like I always do. I'm using blue thread for this project. And I am going to do the 1/4 inch based on my machine. And I'm using a 2.5 inch stitch. You can use smaller, whatever your preference is. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain stitch these. I was going to talk about a book, but I'm not sure if I want to do that or not. I don't know if you guys want to hear some of the stuff that I read. The people out of work say that I watch weird programs and I read weird books, but really, I don't think I do. Let's hope they don't watch this video. Now, what you can do with this, because we're going to cut it off, if you're unsure of where to turn it to get your actual 1/4 inch, you can keep going all the way to the edge of your fabric and test it out. Like that there, I could go back 1 stitch. So all I'm going to do is just go back 1 stitch. Like that. And then continue. Or I can go up 1 stitch and then just do it. I keep forgetting I've got my foot up here. And then turn it at a little angle. Because remember now, when we get done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take these and we're going to size them up. Square them up. Anyway, the reason that they say I read weird things and I watch weird things on TV, it's because none of them do, and this is why I said I hope that they're not watching this, because they're kind of like, in other words, the one person that does read out there, she only reads the same kind of book. I don't read the same kind of book. I read all kinds of books. Now, my college sent me an email, because I'm on the mailing list, and they're starting a book club. But the disadvantage of the book club, and I've never been in a book club before, believe it or not, even though I'm a bookworm, I've never been in a book club. Well, anyway, the problem is that they're during the day of the week, and I work Monday through Friday, so that doesn't help me any. I have no internet at work, so it's not like I can watch any of them, and they're all midway in the day on a Zoom, so I can't even participate. But that doesn't mean I can't buy the book or check, figure out the book, check it out, and read it. So I went ahead and I did a little research on the book. Come to find out, it is the #1 bestseller on the #1 bestseller list. And I think they call that the New York bestseller list, I'm thinking, if I'm remembering it right. Well, anyway, so I looked at it and I read a little bit and I thought, well, it sounded like it was okay. It's like, I think I'd like to give it a try. So, and of course now, it's a different kind of book. This is why everybody says that about me. But anyway, so I decided to give it a shot. So I get online in all these different places. Whoops, I forgot. See here, I got to talking and now I forgot I was chain stitching. Oh, lordy, lordy. Okay. Well, let's just pick up the next one and we'll start. All right. Hopefully I can keep my train of thought. I feel like I can't chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. Alrighty, so anyway. So I get this book, I look online, and I find out all the different sellers that have it. Well, one, it wasn't, I don't remember when the Zoom was because I deleted the email, but anyway, so one of the books said it wouldn't come till like in February, and I'm thinking, geez, zooey, they bought out the books? And you know, I have Amazon Prime, so I can go on down and look at the different people who sell it and that kind of thing. Well, they said I could borrow it, and I don't know where this borrowing was from. I mean, it was on the internet when I looked at it, so I'm not quite sure where it was going to be borrowed from. But I could borrow it for like $8. I'm thinking, geez, how much does the book cost if it's going to be borrowed for $8? I mean, usually you go to the library, you can get a book for free. Read it, and then you're done with it. So I kept looking, and sure enough, I found one online. It was going to be delivered immediately, so it's downloadable on my Kindle. And it was like $7.95. I thought, oh shucks, that's the book to get. Okay, so I went ahead and I get the book. And I will give a book a couple of different chances to read. So if I start a book and I'm reading along and I cannot get into it for some reason, I don't know why, I'll actually put it aside and I'll try it again later. Like another day, another week. And then if I can get into it, I'll go ahead and read it. Now, there's only been maybe a couple of books that I can't get into right off the bat that I've had to set back. But then eventually I get into them. So I don't know, it's just the mood going on, whatever's going on with me, whatever. But anyway, so the title of this book, if you guys want to check it out, is called The Midnight Library. Now, it starts out and it's kind of, I guess, okay, well, first let me explain this. So when I read a book, there's different ways that I read. So this book, I did not put myself into the story to read it. And by that I mean, I didn't get like inside the book and go along with the character in the book to do whatever she's doing. It was like I was on the window outside looking in and watching it like that. So then my perspective is a little different than if I'm actually inside the book. If that makes any sense to you readers. Anyway. So the first part of it's kind of dreary and I, you know, and all I can say when I start a book like that is, well, you know, the book's going to pick up. That's what I think. It'll pick up, you know. If it gets worse, that's the end of the book. If it gets better, that's great. And my little synapse or whatever you want to call it that I read, it really didn't tell me enough. Actually, it didn't really get me interested in reading it, but I was just curious about the book, okay? Because I've never read one based on the New York #1 bestseller. Usually when I read the little synopsis on them, I'm not interested in those books. But somehow something about this book caught my attention. Anyway, I guess I'm going to have to cut that off. That's going to be heavy because that was on the corner. All right, because I didn't start on the edge. I'm just changing all kinds of stuff up today. Well, anyway, so if you're interested in the book, I don't want to be telling you the whole entire book. I did tell the people out at work, and even though they say that I read some weird stuff and, you know, gory and, well, I don't really read gory stuff, but anyway, different stuff, let's put it that way. Even though I was reading it, I was telling my friend who sits on my left out at work. And so as I'm telling her the story, the other two ladies that are sitting in our circle, they're paying attention to it also. So the one says to me, "What did you say that was? Was that a movie? Was that a book? What was that again?" And I said, "That's a book." The next thing I know, they're saying, "What was the name of that book? What was the name?" I'm thinking, I don't know why y'all want to know the name of the book. You're not going to read it. But anyway, so then it starts out kind of down in the dumps. If you've ever had a bad day, you can relate because that's the character in the book. She has a horrible day. So her day started out with her running late for work, which we can all relate to that. She gets a frantic knock at the door. On her way out the door, she'd almost grabbed the knob. And it's a guy who has come into her business, or not her business, but where she works. She works in an old music store. And by that I mean like You know what an old bookstore is? They got a distinctive smell, and they usually sell all the old books. Well, that's what this little music is, like a little hole in the wall type. And they sold sheet music and things like that in it. But anyway, she has been depressed now all of her life. She's even on antidepressants. She's in her 30s. She's not bad looking or anything. She does not have a lot of friends. She is what is considered nowadays as a Debbie Downer, which y'all know what that is. And you may have even encountered people like that. But that is the way her life is, okay? Now, she came in, we find out later on in the story that I believe that her parents were fixing to break up when her mother got pregnant. So her parents, if I recall now, because, you know, I'm reading this book and it's got my thoughts and stuff in it. I believe that it was mentioned and she knew this, okay? So it's not like she wasn't aware that she really wasn't wanted. She was unexpected. And so her mother and father stayed together for that. But she never felt that she had the love in her, from her parents. Now, her father was actually trying to live vicariously through her, which you probably know these kind of parents. They're usually the guys, I hate to say this, but they're usually the guys that are out there in the, out on the sports field with their children, screaming, hollering, egging them on. That's the kind of parents they are. But anyway, so her father, because she was really good with the piano, he wanted her to become, not piano, I'm sorry. Where the heck did I get that from? She was really good with swimming. So he felt that she could go to the Olympics. So he encouraged her. Well, that worked until she hit a little bit of maturity when us women, most of us women, I shouldn't say us women because, you know, some women aren't like this, but when you start noticing your body and then you become embarrassed to be seen in a bathing suit and that kind of stuff, well, when that happened to her, all of a sudden, not like she was, now she wasn't fat or anything, that's not what it is, but you know, kids in their own mind, they hear things and they are the way they are. But anyway, she didn't want to swim anymore because she was embarrassed by her swimsuit. She didn't want to be seen in public. She became shy and withdrawn. So she told her dad she didn't want to do it anymore. Well, after she told her dad that, all of a sudden her dad's attitude changed towards her. As if she had let him down. Well, that's another reason, I guess, to be depressed. You let your parent down when you were trying to please him. But anyway, so going on, the knock on the door, she answers the door, and there's the guy from her that she works. And he goes, I can't think what his name is right offhand. It's been a while since I read the book. But anyway, so he says, I think your cat. I think this is your cat. It's over here on the sidewalk and it's dead. Hold that thought a minute. So when you're done, you got 4 of them that look like this. And now we're going to cut them. I'm going to show you how to cut one. You can cut all 4 ears. Now, always keep in mind that whenever you use your ruler on something like this to cut, you want to make sure that your ruler comes off the edge. We are going to cut this fabric across the diagonal. Just like that. So I'm lining it up on the left-hand side. And I'm going to put the camera up here and show you. Just a sec. Okay, see how it is right on that corner there? One little move over would be exactly where the 2 pieces meet. But I want to take it to the left just a little bit so that it cuts down the middle. And then I'm using my rotating mat here so I don't have to pick up my fabric and turn it. It just makes it easier. And I was going to change my blade because I can see that my blade is getting dirty. But I don't have any tools up here. And I cannot get that bolt off. I don't have the strength in my hands. So I will have to wait and do that later. So let me go ahead and we're going to cut this. I'm trying to make sure I push down hard enough because, you know, I never push down hard enough. Pick this up. I'm going to turn it so I can do it again. Hopefully they cut all the way through. I'm pretty sure I need another blade because ever since I got this, it seems like I use it for everything. Well, not paper, y'all. I use it for... Okay. So there is our 4. Let's see. Okay, got a little piece here. A little piece here. All I gotta do is just push down on it and it takes it off. And just push. Okay. And then when you open these, you got your half square triangle. So I'll just go ahead and cut all these open. Then I'm gonna iron them. And then we'll be ready for the next step. Alrighty, so let me just remind you how to iron it if you're new and you haven't done this yet. And this is one of the first videos you've watched. And so I press the seam first, and it's not telling us which direction to have our seam go. So what I'm going to do is if I go this way, it goes towards the blue, and that's what I want to do, is I want it to go towards the blue. And we're going to cut these down. When we square these up, they're going to be 4.5 inch squared blocks. You can use a block, if I pronounced it right, because I always want to say block tool, or you can use a regular ruler. It's going to be up to you, whatever you want to do. You're going to have 16 of these when you're totally finished. While I'm ironing these, let me go ahead and continue with the story. So the story goes that the young man said that he thought it was her cat. Well, sure enough, and she says, well, how do you know that it's my cat? And it was a black cat. And he said, well, your cat's name is such and such, isn't it? And she said, yes. And he goes, well, it's got a tag on it. So, you know, she stood there because she's like in shock. This is the first animal she's ever owned. So therefore, she's never had an animal pass away on her. Yes, she's had a family member pass away, but not an animal. So she stood there and she couldn't say anything. It's like all of a sudden her mind went blank as to what to do or anything. And he said, well, do you want me to help you with it? And she said yes. So, you know, he helped her and they put it in a bag. And then he says, right after that, now she does have a boyfriend, believe it or not. And like any other kind of story, to me, based on me reading it, that's a toxic relationship. But anywho, let's just move on. Now, these are my interpretations. And keep in mind that whenever you read a story, everybody gets something different out of the book. The reason that you get something different out of a story when you read a book, although it's the same exact book, the reason you get something different and that you remember different parts is based on your life. What has happened in your life is the reason the story becomes different to you. Okay, so that's a little bit of a deep kind of analysis, but I kind of really give a lot of thought when I'm reading. If it's there are books that I've read that I've literally sat down, went through the whole book within a couple of hours, and then could tell you a little bit about it, like the main thing of it. But I really didn't give it much thought. It was just reading it for entertainment. I wasn't even trying to retain the book. This book, I was more or less kind of analyzing it, and I'm not quite sure why I was analyzing. Maybe it was because it was so different. But anyway, this was my interpretation, just based on the little bit that we learned, because, you know, they didn't go deep into the relationship or anything like that, but just the surface part, I could pick that out. But anyway, what is so funny, and of course, you know, that's part of the background, because, you know, when you first start reading a story, they give you a little bit about the character, the people that are in the story. So this is how we know that she's got a boyfriend. I want to think his name is Daniel, but I can't swear to it. Well, anyway, this guy, whose name I can't remember for the life of me, he said, he was sad. He apologized, you know, not that he did it, but he felt that it must have gotten hit by a car or something out on the street. I guess she lived in like a townhouse or something out on the road, or what. She was renting an apartment, is what she was doing. It was some kind of apartment complex, and it must have been in a housing neighborhood, because we have the impression that the next door neighbor actually lived in a house, because she came out her apartment door when she came out, I think, now, if I remembered it right, because I thought it was kind of odd. And then he, on the other hand, came out his front door when he came out, because he had like a garden out in the front and all that kind of stuff. It was an elderly gentleman next door. But anyway, so this guy says, well, I know it's not a very good time or anything. He goes, but, you know, after we take care of your pet and everything, would you like to have a cup of coffee with me? And she goes, well, no, I'm involved. I've got a boyfriend. He goes, okay, well, maybe, you know, whatever. So he said, all right, I'll see you around. Now, remember, he frequented the store she worked at. So she said, okay, and then thanked him and everything. Well, then she went ahead and took care of the cat. She goes to work. Now she's rushing because now she's late to work. She comes in and she apologizes profusely that she's running late. Okay, let's go over to the table. Alrighty, so it was called Block Lock. But I tell you what, as many times I've used this, I still can't use this correctly. I'm not even going to show you how to use it, but I'm going to show you why I don't know how to use the darn thing. Used it. I did it correctly. That's my block. Second time I used it, that's incorrect. It didn't get on the corners, so I must have had it on the wrong side of the darn fabric and didn't even realize it. It's like so frustrating. I'm going to try it again real quick to see if I can get it right. Let me set this aside. I cannot for the life of me figure out what I did wrong. See, that's just it. If I make a mistake, it's like I didn't know I was going to make a mistake, so it messes me up. All right, let's see. If I do this and I cut it off there, now I have 2 spare blocks, so if I mess it up, that's fine. Actually, where is my block at? I had to cut this block here, which is a little bit smaller. So I'll play with that one. Well, actually, these are the 2 blocks I had to make up for. Hold on. I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay. So I'm going to go down as close to the 5 as I can. Now, my little gray area is up against and over the part that has the folded seam. This is why the square ruler doesn't move and shift on you. It won't go either way because it's got a groove in it and it's holding on to your seam allowance. So I normally come down to 5, which you can tell the squares off because it's just a little bit. So let me come down to the 5. And then I'm going to, and you can tell it's right on the corner here, so that's correct. So I ought to make sure I'm in the camera. Yeah. Alrighty. So you're not supposed to have to lift it, any of it. I should automatically be able to take it and come down with it to my 4.5. But if I do, my thing is off. Let's go ahead and cut it at 4.5. Maybe I'm wrong and maybe I just don't see it correctly. Let's see. Nope, that one's right. Well, gosh, I do not know what I did the first time around then. Because that is correct. Look. So that's the way you're supposed to use it. I do not know what I did, honestly, y'all. And I don't have anything going on here, so I had no distraction whatsoever. So I've got the dark color on the bottom. I'm going to do it again. I don't know why that happened. I went down to like a 5, which is what I tried to do before. Tried to get it about 5 because it's going to have to be cut down to 4.5. So I went down to the 5. And I'm wondering, yeah, I had my blue. All right, let's try it. I can afford to mess up 1 block, but that's it. I can't afford more than 1. Let's see here. See, there's where my mess is, right there. See how it messed up? It's not up at the square. So, see, I don't even know what I did. No clue whatsoever. But I take all these, I'm going to go ahead and cut it 4.5 because I take all my mistake blocks and I'm going to create something with them. Always. Always, always. So I don't know what I did. If you all know what I did, I mean, if you see it, give me a comment and tell me what the heck I'm doing wrong. This is why I avoid this block. This one here. Because I can't get it right. I don't understand why it does that. So see, they're both wrong. So I'm going to set them aside. Like I said, I'm saving for later. Let me go ahead and I'm going to use my ruler. Because what I like to use, if I can find it, here we go, is a 4.5 inch ruler. Which is this thing. Because what I do is I put it on my, it's got to be 4.5 inches. And normally, well, I can even do it bigger than a 4.5 inch. Let me get the next size up. Alrighty, so what I'll do with this ruler is I'll put it up here and I take the least amount off and I put my line diagonally up the edge of the thing here. I'm going to need to practice with that thing to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Because that is just ridiculous that I cannot figure that out. Notice I switched my thing hoping that this blade wasn't as worn out as the other one. I can't change at the moment. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so there is that right there. Now, let's see what I'm going to do here. So, turn around. It's been a minute since I've made one of these. I'm going to pick it up, lay it back down, and come down to 4.5. And I've got it lined right back up. I've got the 4.5 across here and across here. And I try to make it so I can see my lines. And it's going diagonally up here. And then take off the excess. Get my ruler to cut, for heaven's sakes. I guess I'm going to have to change that blade out of that one. Of course, I think this is the one that Megan and I have both been using so much. And she's been doing a lot of cutting, so I'm going to change my blade on that real quick. Okay, so let me set that aside. At least I showed you how to do it that way. All right, let me change my blade. Now I got to be careful because that thing is sharp. Ugh. Alrighty, so before I go on, the character in the book that I'm reading, her name is Nora. And the author that wrote the book, in case you guys want to look it up, is Matt, and I'm trying to figure out how to spell his last name. Let's see, what is it? It is H-A-I-G. I think it's pronounced Haig. But what got me is the very beginning. You know how you have a little, I guess you call it a preface of the book? Usually like the first couple pages when you read them, they're, well, they're not even about the book. They're usually something else. But the thing that got me, it's like little, I want to say sentences. Well, they could be a paragraph. But anyway, they're just little short, like 3-4 sentences by authors. For example, the very beginning of the book is the little paragraph. It's 2.5 sentences long. Is by Sylvia Plath, P-L-A-T-H. She says, and this is what kind of gets me into these books, because I go in and I read the beginning of that. It says, I can never be all the people I want and live all the lives I want. I can never train myself in all the skills I want. And why do I want? I want to live and feel all the shades, the tones, the variations of mental and physical experience possible in life. So I'm thinking, well, what the heck does that have to do with this book? Well, then the next page got me with the first line. And that's what intrigued me about this book. It said, between life and death, there is a library, she said. And within that library, the shelves go on forever. So that is what grabbed me about this book. Reading that, not that I'm thinking, you know, my thought wasn't, oh, I'm going to be reading a book about a library. That didn't enter my mind. It wasn't that part. It was the sentence itself. Now, I can't give the book away. I mean, you guys can be interested enough to want to go ahead and read the book, okay? That's going to be up to you. You can listen to what little bit I have that I'm saying, and that's the end of it, you know, or wonder about it. But, you know, I think there's some kind of, I want to say, oh, what is it? Well, it's like copyright infringement if you read the whole book. Although I have seen people on here reading. Okay, I got to go up a little bit more because it's not quite right. So before I take it off, I'm going to go up here and cut some. Now this is a little bit more than 4.5 because it's not coming out quite right. So hold on here. Okay, let me see. Okay, let's go up here and see if I can do. Now I don't mind it being a little bit bigger than the 4.5. I just don't want to go smaller. Okay, so that's working out real good. You know, and on these Creative Grids, I've got these little, I call them little Indian head arrow that helps me at the points. So then I got to just take a little bit off of here. I just didn't have it on there quite right. Alrighty, so anyway, let me tell you a little bit more about the story. Now, I'm not going to tell you that whole entire book. I want to think it's 200 and something pages. Like 250, something like that. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so let's set it aside. But anyway, so when she came into work, and I just knew this was going to happen just by, you know, listening to how her life's going and everything. But anyway, so she comes in and her boss says, you know, she's, like I said, she just apologized profusely. She said she'd work later, you know, and all that to make up for it. And there was only like maybe him, the boss, and then there was like 3 employees. She was one of the 3. And he said, I hate to do this to you, Nora. And she goes, what's that? And he goes, I'm going to have to let you go. And she goes, what? I don't understand. Why? And he goes, and this is where the phrase Debbie Downer come in. Because he more or less told her she was like a Debbie Downer. He goes, you're like so depressing. Nobody wants to buy anything. A lot of people don't want to even stay in here. And she goes, yeah, but she sold a guitar to, I think she sold a guitar to that young guy that came in that buys the sheet music. But she had sold a guitar to somebody and, you know, done stuff like that. And she goes, but I can get better. I can get improved. And he goes, how many years you been working here? You have not improved one bit. And so he said, just, you know, that's it. I'm sorry. I apologize, but it's just not going to work. So she leaves. So all I can think was, oh my God, that poor woman. I mean, just one thing after another. Of course, you know, I'm an animal lover, so I was really, really upset when her cat passed away. But anyway, so let me just speed you along real quick. Let me go ahead and finish up these real quick on my own, and then I'll come back and I'll speed up the story as we put it together. Alrighty, so when all is said and done, you got 16 half-square triangles. We're going to put them together, and they're going to look like that. Okay, so I feel like I'm missing some pieces, but I guess not. Alrighty, so the first thing we need is from step 1. Oh, I know what it is. It's because I have extra pieces sitting here. That's what it is, but that's okay. So we're going to begin by taking a 4.5. Let's just build us a block right here with what we have. And keeping in mind that these go downward. Okay, and then we're going to, this one goes upward. Lift that a little bit here. And this one goes like that. So these 2 are going up and these are coming in. And then let me get my, oops. I need to get my white. Let me take my pen off of them. Because it looks like I have one white in the top left-hand corner. And you know, okay, and then we're going to take the blue, take my pen out, and we're going to use 2 of these. I'm going to put one up here and one down here, and then we're going to take this pea coat, and that's what the other 2 blocks are. So one here and one here, and there we go. And we're going to sew them in rows like this. All right, and we're going to make 4 of those, and they should end up being 12.5 by 12.5 inches when we're done. So let me go ahead and we're going to pin this first row. Actually, we're going to do it like this. We're going to sew these 2 and then that one, and then I'll have a row and I'll set it back, and then we'll just do it like that. Continues. I've stacked them all up so I can do them. And then, I don't know, this was on my thing, so somehow I got an extra 3.5 by 3.5. Needs to be a different week, so I'm just going to put this back in my little container. All right, I'm going ahead and I'm pinning these first 2 to each other and the whole thing. And then one of them, I hadn't cut the thing. It was too big, so it was like, what? I don't know how that's escaped me. But let me tell you what I'm doing here. So this is the way it's going to look, like that. All right. Well, instead of picking it up and putting the right sides together like this and sewing, I have it turned over. Now I flipped it upside down because I want this to be at the very beginning so I can come over it so that it does not prevent my machine. In other words, if I was going this way when I sewed it, when I got down here, I might end up flipping that over, and I didn't want that to happen. So that's why I've turned them over. And it was the second row and the third row. And all I'm doing is putting a pin at the end. That's it. Just keeping it straight, because I can hold it straight at the top when I get it and then come all the way down with it. So that's how I'm pinning them. And I'm just doing them in order because I want to be able to chain stitch all this. All right. I'm so upset at this darn camera. Unbelievable. I just told you part of that story, chain stitched all of those things right there up to the last one. It made a noise. I got up and looked at it and the phone had shut off right at the beginning of that video. Now I got to remember what I said. Oh gosh. Woe is me. Woe is me. My name is Nora today. Let me go check out my other video. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain stitch this. I'll tell you a little bit more about the story and then I'm going to stop because otherwise I can't speed up this video. I mean, I don't know how many of y'all are even interested in this story. Maybe I'm boring when I tell a story. I do not know. But let me just give you a little bit just to start out. So she goes home, you know, after she's let go. And I'll be darned if her landlord is telling her she's evicted. It's like, oh my God, this woman, could she take any more crap in her life? I felt so bad for her. I want to think she had a date with her boyfriend or something, and he begged off too. But I mean, she just had one bad thing after another happen to her. I think I'm going to put a leader ender in this. If I can find one. Do I have some over here or not? I don't remember. Oop, I don't. Okay. But anyway, all I could think was, well, you know what? If her life's been going like that all this time, no wonder that woman is depressed. I mean, it's like she has no luck. Except bad luck. You know, there's probably people out there like that too. I felt bad for her, for the woman. I mean, gee whiz. Can she get a break? But anyway, so I want to say she has a pity party, because what other word is it when you're feeling sorry for yourself? Now remember, you know, that would be expected because she's already depressed. This just like puts her over the edge. So maybe her medication's not working. I don't know. Anyway, the point being, now she's thinking she's out of a job and oh my God, just all kinds of stuff. But then, not only that, another thing happens. She has, when she quit her swimming, you know, remember I told you she gave up the swimming. She was teaching a young boy how to play piano because his mother got a call from the school saying he was being a bit rowdy and getting into trouble, and she thought this would keep him out of trouble, so she was having her teach her son. And she didn't show up to the appointment, and the mom of the child, they waited outside for over an hour, and she got fed up, and she said, that's it, I'm not going to have him do any more lessons with you. And she said, well, no, I'd be willing to do it for free. And she goes, nope, that's not it, you're not reliable, blah, blah, blah. And she went on and on and on, ripped her up one something horrible. Okay, so that's, I mean, I can't remember everything I said, but that's the gist of it. So let's get these ironed open. All right, so we'll just talk a little bit more about the story as I clip all these little threads. That'll give me time to tell you a little more. Anyway, so what she does is she starts drinking. You know, she had a bottle of wine. She thought she'd sit and do a woe is me type thing. Now, if that were me, I'd be eating. I wouldn't be drinking because I don't drink. But anywho, I can understand her feeling sorry for herself and all that. I mean, lots of people can relate to it. They've not had everything like that happen to them, but they've had one or two things happen to them, got them all low. Anyway, so then she gets to thinking about her life, you know. She feels like she's done nothing ever right. Nothing's ever gone good for her. She's still in the same town she's always been in. She never got out of town. Everybody said that she was the girl most likely to succeed because she has so many talents that she can do. I mean, life comes easy to her. At least it could have come easy to her, but her attitude, I believe, is what's keeping her down. All right, so let me get these ironed open. Alrighty, wait a minute. Before we do that, let's pin these things together because, you know, when we do this and we iron it, we need to iron one row going one direction, the other one going the other direction, and then the other one going the other direction. So you got to have two rows going to the right or the left and one row going the opposite to get them all to nestle. So first I'm going to take, this is the one that goes on the left top with that. So let's do that first. Okay. Just so I got them all lined up. So there's 4 of them there, because that's how many we need. And then this one, the dark one, goes in the middle like that. This is going to go upward. Remember, I sewed them upside down, so, or backwards, or however you want to say it. So it was easier. Okay. Did the same thing with this one. So the blue goes here. This faces up just like that one. So let's flip it this way. Okay, like that. Like this and this. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll pin these. So take the first one. And so since this is coming down, that's the way I'm going to go. And then this one on the back side, it's also, look at this, I'm not even in the camera, for heaven's sakes. Golly gee, guys, I am so sorry. All right, so I've got them all lined up here. Got them in order, so we can just attach these to this, that to that, that to that. So the first thing I did was I picked it up. We're going to put them together. So automatically I want to have this top part, because on the back that's already going down. So that's going to be perfect. So I'm going to pin the bottom of them. I'll do each one like this. So let me do that, and then I'll come back, and hopefully I can tell you a little bit more, and this camera won't shut off on me. I'll keep checking it every couple of minutes is what I'll do this time around. Where was I in my story? Okay, so she was drinking. That's where I was. You know, I'm going to bring this to an end here pretty soon because I can't get into any more. But it's enough to get you, I call it tantalized. I don't think that's the word, but it's enough to give you a taste of it, so that if you're interested in buying the book, you can buy the book. And like I said, mine only cost me $7.95, so it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg if you want to go by Kindle. You can, and I'm pretty sure there are used paperback books out there. There might even be some at the library that you could borrow. But anyway, so let me get to where the title, because, you know, that's one thing about a book. I'll read a book and I'll go along and I'm thinking to myself, where the heck are they coming up with the title? Why did they use that title? Well, this one made sense. A lot of books I read don't make any sense. I can't figure out how they came up with a title or why they even named it that. But anyway, so going forward here, so she went ahead and she more or less had a pity party. She went ahead and drank, and then she got a little bit intoxicated from too much wine. But, you know, I told you she takes antidepressants, so she figured, what the heck? Why don't I end it? And I thought, oh my gosh. Like, where is this book going? So anyway, she took a whole handful of pills and fell face down on her bed. And I figured, you know, the next thing we're going to hear ambulance, but I'm thinking, no, I don't think that's going to be that quick, because that's not going to make any sense for this book. Because, you know, the whole entire time I'm reading this book, I'm also trying to figure out this book. The next thing, you know, she wakes up. And when she wakes up, she's sitting in the library. Okay? And there's she's like, it's like she's entered the door or something. So she wasn't sitting. I think she was entering the door. She looks at she's like a far distance from the librarian, you know, the table. Like back when I went to school, the library was set up so that when you came through the double doors, straight ahead was the librarian. That's not the way libraries are made today. I mean, some of them are, but not in a school library. I mean, a regular public library compared to what it was like when I was a kid and I went to school. So anyway, you open up the doors and you walk in, and then you've got like probably, I want to say, 15, 16 feet, and you can walk right up to the desk. Well, that's the way this one was situated. And it was just like it was her library when she went to school. So she thought, well, how did I get here? And she looks up and she sees her librarian, which the lady's name was Miss Elm, like the tree. And so Miss Elm, I mean, I'm going to call her Miss Elm. We know that that's, you know, this is all in her mind because, you know, she's on the bed laying face down. But anyway, so she goes, Miss Elm, and she goes, yes, hi, Nora. And she starts talking to her just like she knows her. And she goes, I don't understand what's happened. And she goes, oh, she goes, you're at the library. And she goes, but how can I be at the library? And she goes, well, this is the library in your mind. And so she goes, oh, am I dead? Am I alive or what? And she goes, well, you're in between. Now, she's not in purgatory. She's in between being alive or being dead. And so she goes, well, I don't understand. Am I like just sitting here waiting, or, you know, like, I don't get it. And she goes, well, she said, take a look around. Well, of course, Nora had already looked. And so when she walked into this library, it is the biggest, even though it reminded her of school, when she looked, like she looked down, like, let's say you look to the left, okay, like in a regular library. Well, you look and you see all the way to the wall. Well, in this library, there was no wall. The bookshelves went on and on and on forever until you couldn't see anymore. So there were miles of books. And when she looked up, the bookcases went all the way up to the ceiling, and you couldn't even see the ceiling. That's how far up it went. So it was an endless library. And all the books were in a color green. Everything from a light green to a dark green to every kind of texture that you could think of in the color green was on these shelves. And they were all different sizes. And when I say different sizes, I mean thicknesses of the book. So some of the books were real thin. So they reminded you of a children's book, you know, the little picture books, thin like that, where you barely could see them on the shelves. And then there was really thick books. And so she said, well, I don't understand what's going on. She goes, these books are your lives. And she goes, my lives? And she goes, yes. In the world, it takes one choice. So in other words, this is just like your regular daily living. This is how I'm thinking about it, because this is the way my thought process goes. So every time you choose something, let's say that you get out of bed in the morning and the first thing you do is you rise, your feet are cold, you put your slippers on. Okay, that's going to lead you down the path of one life. But let's say you get up, same exact scenario, but instead of putting your slippers on, you don't put your slippers on. You go barefooted to the kitchen to make your coffee. That's a totally different scenario. So everything is going to be different because you did something different. Okay? And you guys know this from experience. This just goes to me a little bit deeper. For example, here's an example of your day. Okay? So you go to work at your regular time and you always stop at the Starbucks before work. And that's your routine. Okay, so your life goes that direction. But if for some reason you did the same thing every day, but when you got out on the street, there was a car accident and the darn thing held you up for 20 minutes and you had an important meeting you couldn't get out of, there is going to be no way you're going to stop at the Starbucks. So that means your life has gone into a different direction. So that's what this basically means, or meant, okay? So she's sitting there and she goes, well, so what do I need to do? And she goes, well, I think that you need to read a book. Now, she's trying to think to herself, why is this librarian in her mind Miss Elm? All right, that's the first thing she's trying to think. Well, the connection between her and Miss Elm is that when her, and I believe it was her mother, passed away, she was with the librarian, because this young girl, in order to get through life, because remember now, she was all depressed and everything, she was always in the library, and it was a safe haven for her. So this is why in her mind she went here when she took that overdose of her depressants, because this is a safe haven. And Miss Elm is a safe haven. Miss Elm helped her when she lost her mother, because they came to the library while she was at the library and told Miss Elm what had happened, and then Miss Elm come to her. So that's the reason she now sees Miss Elm in the library. Now we know that it's not, whoops, excuse me, I'm sorry. We know it's not really Miss Elm. Let me cut these apart here for you. And of course it's all in her mind, which is fine, okay? So now we're going along with the story. And then what happens is, she says, let me start you by reading a book. So she brings a book over, and it is a great, big, I mean, big, humongous book. Y'all, you never saw a book so big. Now, there aren't any pictures in this story. This is me, because of the description of the book, telling you how I would describe it to you. It is a book that you have never seen in your life so big. Every book has a title. What do y'all think the title on this book is? Now, when I say big, I mean it is like probably thicker than 5 inches for the thickness of the book now. And it's not a small paperback. It's a great big huge one, so big that you can't just open it up and hold it. You've got to literally put it on the floor and open it. It made me think of a, what are they called? What were they? Not the encyclopedias, because that's not a big enough book. The bigger books that are like 24 by 18 inches big. Those big books. I can't think what they're called, but they got a name. But anyway, that's the kind of book she had. She looked up at the top, one word title, and the word was regrets. That book was full of nothing but all of her life regrets. I couldn't believe it. Now let's iron all of these open. Well, first I'm going to lay them down here because we need to put them in order. So my last ones were my top. And then I'm going to show you how I'm talking about the ironing part. Let's make sure I've got all of these right before I go to the trouble of ironing them. All right, this was my next row because it has the blue in the middle. All of these are going up. I make sure I did it all right. I don't think there would have been a problem with this row, these last 2 rows when you put these together, because they're all the same. I mean, it's the blue, it goes like that. So there wouldn't be a problem. All right, so this is what you're going to do. When you go up there to the ironing board, if you take this and you iron these all to the right, then you need to take this one and iron them all to the left so they will nestle when we put them together. All right? So let me take them up there and do that first. Now always set them down like this, iron over it, and relax your seam before you do it. And the directions don't tell you to do it one way or the other, so it doesn't make any difference. It's going to be your preference. Alrighty, so for this first row, what I did was I decided that since this is going down, that I would go this way with it. Now, you know we're going to have to end up marking these anyway, so we'll open them up. If you guys want to open these, that's fine. You can open them up. But that right there leads us to make the other row. The second row has to be ironed that way, and then the third row has to be ironed that way. So while I'm doing that, think about how thick your book of regrets would be based on the age you are right now. And I mean, you couldn't even believe some of the regrets you would have that you really don't realize. And I will tell you by giving you an example of one regret. She went through a lot of them, but I will give you the one story that changed in the book to help you give a little bit more understanding. And then I've got to quit talking about the book. So also I wanted to let you know, be careful about the bias, because see how this looks? Now watch. See how that stretches? You don't want to stretch this out while you're trying to iron it, okay? Alrighty, so I pulled the top 2. Here's the top 2 rows that look like that. And we're going to attach them, and the only place they need to be marked is right here. So get your little ruler. We're going to fold this over first. Just press it with your finger. We're going to go right above, I'm putting my pin right where the 2 threads meet and cross over. And then I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to extend it beyond the seam right here. I want it to be seen on both sides. The reason I want it to be seen is I want to fold this back because this is the direction that I have my fabric ironed. And I want to make sure I can see both these lines because I'm going to meet them. This is the line that I'm going to sew on to keep from taking the tip off of my block. So take it like this, and then we're going to pin it. So what you're going to pin, now if you want, you can take this and you can open this block too, if you want to, like this, and lay it flat, which you'll see it right there. And then you can mark right across there, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going right here. So there's where I'm coming out, right there. So if I sew right there, I have not taken my tip off. And then I'm just putting it in my fabric here at my 1/4 inch. Let me back this up a little bit so you can see it, because now it's too much. So like that. That's where it's going to go. I'm going to put a pin on this side right here, like that. Pull this one out. I'm going to go down to the end over here because I don't want this flipping up on me. See, the good thing about a little bit of bias is that it will stretch and fit. It's okay if it's a little bit off. Go down to this end here, and this is where you're going to nestle these. You want to lock them in so that when they get sewn, they look like, let's see if I can flip it, like that. They come right next to each other like that. And then I'll put a pin up here at the top. Alrighty, so when you've got it pinned, and this is me, I know I'm excessive with the pins, but I want to keep it straight, so that's the way it looks. And all 4 of these strips will look like that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin all them, and then we'll start sewing them. Okay, so continuing with the one regret, let me tell you what it is. And of course, you know, you got to think it's going to be something current, so you've probably already guessed it of what it was. So her regret at this moment was she told Miss Elm, she said that she regretted that her cat died, and she feels like she's responsible. And of course, you know, Miss Elm's asked her questions because that's how she's going to learn something. Although Miss Elm is all-knowing, because, you know. But she said, well, what do you mean? And she said, I feel, this is what Nora said. She goes, I feel if I had let my cat be an indoor cat, he wouldn't have never died because he wouldn't have been out in the street and he wouldn't have got hit by a car. And she said, I really love that cat. And she goes, okay, so let's live that life and we're going to change it. So the next thing you know, in a blink of the eye, she's back in her apartment, right? So she's, I can't recall her cat's name, but she's calling for her cat. She looks down, she sees the dishes right there, you know, where they've always been, the food dish, the water, there's food in there, and she's calling his name, and he's not coming, and so she starts looking underneath the furniture, and sure enough, there he is, like behind it was either the bed or the couch or something, but he was like backed up into the wall. And I'm thinking, well, that kind of sounds strange, because it sounds like he's scared or something, but anyway, she moves out the piece of furniture, whatever it is, and then she sees that he's dead. And as soon as she did, she went, oh, she like screamed. And when she did, pow, she was right back in the library. That quick. So then she says, I don't understand. She goes, well, what's the matter? And Miss Elm says, what's the matter? She goes, well, he was dead. He died. She goes, I don't understand. And she goes, well, what do you mean? And she goes, well, I thought you just told me that I could go and live that life and he would be alive. And she goes, no, that's not what I told you. She said you wanted to change the fact that he was an outdoor cat into an indoor cat who'd never been outside. You're the one that said he wasn't going to die. I never said any such thing. And she goes, but then I don't understand. And she goes, well, first off, your cat was born with a congenital heart problem to start out with. Which, of course, you know, she never knew. He never had any problems. She didn't have to take him to the vet or anything. And she said, whether he was an indoor or an outdoor doesn't make a difference. He was going to die when he died. And then she stopped and she thought about that. And she said, see? And when she looked down, Miss Elm had pointed at the book, and she looked down at the book. And at the same time she's looking down there, she says, see, you couldn't have done anything. You gave that cat the best life he ever had. He loved you as much as you loved him. It was just time for him to go. And the line that she had down there that showed her regret about her cat literally disappeared. That whole entire line. So in her life now, she has one less regret. And that's just an idea. And so throughout the story, that's what she does. She goes through different lives. So if you guys want to get this book and read it, I think you'll all enjoy it. But that's all I can say. So I hope you enjoyed what little bit I gave you, just a little tidbit, a morsel, and we're going to continue making this block. So go ahead and finish sewing them. Okay, so then you'll have these two done, and then we're going to put the last row on. Let's see if we need to do any marking. Now, I haven't ironed anything yet. So we know we have to mark this here, and we don't have anything to mark over there. So this will be really, really easy. Take your pen. And thank goodness I don't have to roll this over because I'd have to be using white. Because I'd never be able to see that red on this black. So take this here and you're going to put it up against here. Just like that. So they're nestled together and just pin it right here. Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and chain stitch this last row. So this is row 3. I need a little help here, so just slowly guide it through if you have to get it over the bump. Comes the last one, and then we're going to arm these open. When all is said and done, you'll have 4 blocks that look the same. They're great looking. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and the story that I gave you there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the little bell for future videos that I'll be putting up. Thanks everybody for watching. Bye-bye.